Welcome to the Super Game Brothers podcast. My name is David, and this is episode number 27, starting the second half of our journey to 50 episodes, which is kind of crazy. We're past 6 months. This podcast we do every single week about the board games and video games that we're playing as two brothers. So I'm always joined by my younger brother, Devin, the milkman himself. How are you, Devin?
Oh, shoot, the milkman. Oh, because I drink milk. I thought it was my hat you were referring to. I'm doing fan-freaking-tastic. I'm breathing. Life is good. The sun's shining. Well, it was today, and I assume it will shine tomorrow. So all is well. Fun fact.
I do think it will shine tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I just ate, this is a very rare occasion for me, but I just ate legitimate crab from Alaska.
Like in a leg?
No, they de-legged it for me.
De-legged.
It was in a bag. It was in a bag, and we stabbed it with a fork and just slopped it in butter. Wow. Do you like that stuff?
I do like crab a lot, but I don't like dipping it in butter.
What?
I know. I have this weird thing. I don't like food that's too rich. So I don't like divinity. I think it's way too rich of a dessert. It's like overwhelming taste. And I like crab. I like crab and sushi. Every Christmas at my wife's house, they do a big crab dinner. And they buy like a ton of, what's it called? King crab or snow crab? I don't remember. And they'll just have like 100 pounds of crab legs that you actually crack open yourself and you eat the meat out of them. And everyone else is dipping it in butter. But I just like the crab. Like all the butter in it, like it's so freaking rich.
It is like rich. What a strange texture too. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of seafood has really weird textures. Like calamari's weird. Shrimp is super weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's all weird. Fish are weird.
Fish are weird. I love it though. Whenever we go to get sushi, I always get a couple octopus nigiri pieces. And I really love those. It's really chewy though.
I'm down.
Like it. It's like a Haribo gummy.
Yeah. That's amazing. Our uncle was just up in Idaho, and he got a fish in this like some pond place. I don't know where it was, but he caught 3 trout. One of the trout is 33 inches long and 13 pounds. It is a big freaking fish. It was from like midsection to like almost his eye to his midsection hanging.
Wow.
I didn't know trout could get so big. Everybody's out killing crabs and killing fish this weekend.
Yeah, it is true. We kind of aren't very nice to the fish. We let them like repopulate in the water, and then we just scoop them out and kill them all and eat them.
Yeah, and then we take all the credit for the size they are. We're like, look what I did.
Yeah. I caught the big one. I do like fishing though. That's one of my favorite outdoor activities related to camping and hunting, because I don't really like camping or hunting, but fishing is okay. I enjoy it for like, half a day or something.
I agree.
Know that
it's a good time.
I could go on a huge like week-long fishing excursion. That sounds like a little much, but yeah, I do like fishing. I'm excited, Evan, as a total subject change here. I'm going to keep a count of how many trains we hear today. There was an article in the news that said that some of the, they call them, can't think of the name in English, but in Danish it's the bomb. I think it's the little thing that comes down to block you from...
Bomb?
Yeah. What is it called in English? The railroad things that come down and stop you from going on the railroad tracks.
Railroad bars.
Railroad bars. Some of those weren't functioning for some reason. And so to make sure that they're trying to be as safe as possible, they're having the trains honk as much as possible before every single intersection. And I live right next to an intersection. So every train that goes by has just been blasting that horn. So we'll see. We might hear a good dozen.
I heard a fun fact about Denmark recently, and I'm going to get the terminology wrong, but basically what they were saying was Danish people are so good at working with each other and are so pleasant to be around that they usually have bigger friend groups and more colleagues and coworkers that they are friends with than any other country. They'll have like friend groups of like 10 to 20, where other people are like, I have 2 good friends, that type of thing. I was like, that's very interesting, because we're Danish, but I work in my closet and don't talk to anybody all day.
We're Danish in like heritage, but American and all in social life. But yeah, I do think Denmark is a more social country than us. They like to have their parties, go out to the pub or to the discotheque and to the club. They're
clubbing. They're like Ireland.
I think so. When I was there, I wasn't really out clubbing, but so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, they do seem like a very social place. So I could see that. We should be more like that in America, but we're not. We see each other in the Walmart and we're like, don't look at me.
Yeah. We both agree we didn't see each other silently.
Right. And I'm afraid, like, if I look at you wrong, you might be packing heat. And that might be the last time I look at someone wrong. So.
Yeah. Dude, I think it's this. I think there's this weird thing in the world where small talk exists too much.
Yeah.
Where if you see someone you haven't seen in a while, the first go-to thing you're saying is like, oh, what you been up to? Where you working? Did you get a house? Are you dating yet? And it's like, I don't want to answer those questions. If I see you, I want you to say something like deeper. I don't know, something different. I don't even know what that would be. But it gets old answering those questions, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's like a checklist of, I need to make sure that they're married, because if not, I, for some reason, don't want to talk to them anymore. I don't know what the purpose of it is of that, but it's probably like not done in a ill intention. Often people just generally want to know, like, oh, what's going on with your life? But they get a little too into it. Like, I'm going to ask him every question. What year did you graduate from college, and what's your degree in? I don't know.
I'm saying, what degree?
I think it's 78 degrees outside. Yeah,
that's exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what people are doing, but that's a cool stat. I know that when I was living there was another stat about Denmark, that they were generally the happiest country on earth. I don't know how they measure that, if it's like independent surveys or the percentage of people that are on antidepressants. I don't really know, but there were some data that said that Danes were the happiest people on earth. So those two things might go hand in hand. Happiness and friend group. So either I need to become happier to have more friends, or I need to have more friends, and that will make me happier. Which one do you think causes the other? I don't know.
Too many friends sometimes comes with a lot of expectation, I think. And like, that's you're true. Always letting one of them down, and then he's mad at your other friend. And she said this to her. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe we do it right then. Just need.
Yeah, like maybe so.
That's funny. Well, anything else new in your life, Mr. Milkman Hat?
No, just been focused on being healthy, trying to stay away from too many carbs in the form of bread, and working out and watching my horror movies. I just watched the weirdest movie called Flesh. Super weird. You know the guy with the metal arm in Marvel? Well,
the
he's
Winter
in
Soldier?
It. Yeah. And he like pretends he's gonna go on a date with this girl. Well, he goes on the date and he's like just pretending. He's putting on a character, a face, basically, and takes her to his house and ends up drugging her. And she wakes up. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" And he's like, actually, I'm going to tell you, but you're going to freak out. And she's like, oh, no. And he tells her, I'm going to sell your meat. I'm going to cut pieces off of you, basically. And I'm not going to kill you yet. It was a weird movie. It was a weird movie. I've been watching a lot of weird movies. I just watched a prequel to Rosemary's Baby called Apartment 7A. It's got the really loud, angry chick from Ozark in it that like kind of helps him run the casinos.
I haven't seen Ozark, but
oh, you should watch that.
I've heard it's really good. I haven't seen that one. But Apartment 7A, any good, or was it a bummer?
Yeah. It was weird. It was like a show that was so random you almost couldn't keep up. There was no explanation for why the scene was jumping to where it was jumping, and I don't know. It was fine.
I haven't seen the movie I'm about to mention yet, but that is the vibe that I've gotten from anything I've read or seen about Longlegs, is that it seems to like jump scenes and have weird ideas introduced often, but does it make more logical sense as to why things are jumping from here to there, or is it about the same level, it's just better?
I liked the camera angles and the colors they used in Longlegs were super cool and like kind of made an effect on you, like kind of left a lasting impact, I guess. But no, I couldn't tell you what happened in that movie. But my memory also sucks, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, that is hard. I need to watch some horror movies. We've been we started Lord of the Rings. One of our close friends that lives close by has never seen the Lord of the Rings, which is kind of crazy. He loves like Marvel movies and Star Wars and Harry Potter. I'm like, man, this is like you're like the prime audience. I'm really surprised. Never seen them. And I've seen them probably 50 times. Maybe that's exaggerating a little bit, but 25? I don't know. A lot of times.
Yeah, probably.
And it's been fun to watch them with somebody that hasn't seen them before. Because I like ask questions, and most of them like I know the answer to, but sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't thought of that. Or like seeing someone's initial reaction to some of the scenes you've seen like a million times is fun too. So it's kind of cool to see that like that series of movies that I hold in like such high esteem, like they're going over really well. He really likes them. And so I just think that like quality like is kind of timeless, which is cool. Been a fun little experiment. We're about halfway through the series. We finished Fellowship and we're a little more than halfway through the Two Towers. Just about to start the Helm's Deep fight.
Ooh, which is it's like one of the best scenes in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, no horror for me yet this month. It is only the 2nd, so I got a little time to get to the horror. But those Uruk-hai, they're a little creepy. Get their heads cut off, you know.
I'd be scared in real life if that thing was coming at me. I think I just go fainting goat strat. Honestly, I think my body is so overwhelmed that thing's chasing me, I just fall over. And then it does what it wants to me, but I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Yep. You weren't conscious, so it was a win.
Exactly. It's like surgery.
Yeah. Cool. October's fun. I do like it when the weather starts to get a little cooler, which is nice. It's not so stinking hot. Got the Halloween and then Thanksgiving and Christmas vibes just back to back to back. It's a good time. Well, Devin, I don't know that I have much else new this week either. Got a lot of new board games. We'll cover or talk about some of them today, and I don't know. It's just been a good couple of weeks. Just busy at work too. I don't know. What do you say? Do we just jump in, or anything else you want to chat about?
Yeah, I think we jump in. Yeah.
Cool. We've got kind of a longer ending segment, so that will that'll work pretty good if we just hop in, I think. Well, this week there's not a lot of news, but before we get to the news, this is, like I mentioned at the top, a weekly gaming podcast that we do. We talk about the board games and video games that we have been playing, go over announcements and news in both of those industries, and just generally have a good time. You can follow the podcast on any podcast service. I think we're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. I think we were on a Google podcast service for a minute, but I think they shut that one down. There's a few others, Castbox and stuff. You'll find it. Just Google it, Super Game Brothers, and you'll find it. We also have a Patreon. You can get some extra content over there totally for free by following the Patreon, and we do have some paid perks as well. You can get some extra videos, submit questions and comments to the show. You can get all of the episodes 3 days early, a monthly Q&A, your name in the credits. That's at patreon.com/supergamebrothers. So please check those out. It helps us a lot. Really appreciate it. All right. Like I said, Devin, not a lot of news this week. There are two big conventions this week that kind of taken over, I think, all of the, conversation and the distraction from there being actual news. In video games, that's Tokyo Game Show just happened in Japan, and there wasn't really any huge announcements there, just a few like small things, and like I know Sony had like the PlayStation 5 Pro that you could demo there and stuff like that. So that was in Japan, and then the board game conventions at SPIEL in Germany. What do they call it? Essen? I don't remember. Though that's a lot of words. That convention, I think, starts today and goes, I think, the rest of the week. So there's basically no board game news because of that. So not a lot of news this week, but there are a few little things to go over. We'll talk about what we've been playing, what we're excited about, and then we're going to end with a fun segment after we do crowdfunding corner. So in the news mini nuke, just a few little things. First up, new trailer. I thought it looked kind of cool. It's a game called Moon Mystery, and I think it's kind of an indie game. I think it's only on PC, and I didn't even get the release date to be honest, but it's coming out sometime soon, and I don't know a ton about it other than that it looked like a cool sci-fi first-person shooter on the moon. So I'm just going to read this little blurb. The moon's haunted, and when an astronaut loses contact with Earth, the adventure begins in full. Fill up your oxygen, load up the guns, and set out on an interstellar FPS adventure across the stars filled with puzzles, fights, exploration, and strange secrets of the universe. It's being published by a little publishing company, I think, called like indie.io, but I don't know. Looks kind of cool. I like the vibe and some of those fights on the, I don't know if this is supposed to be on the moon, I imagine, but there's water on the moon for some reason and stuff. I don't know. Could be fun. So look out for that one if you like sci-fi games. Next little one, quick announcement that a game I've been very excited for is coming to console, to Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation on November 26th. This is probably the highest rated Metroidvania that has come out this year. I think it came out in February or March on PC. It's called 9 Souls, and it has this cool kind of hand-drawn art in kind of a Japanese kind of art style. And it's supposed to have a Sekiro-like parry system as well. So the combat is supposed to be really good, and it's also a Metroidvania with like exploration and stuff like that, like Hollow Knight. So supposed to be excellent. I'm very pumped for it.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, I've been contemplating whether I wanted to get it on Steam so that I could play it on the Rogue Ally, and now I've got the tough decision of do I do that or wait and get it on the PlayStation. I don't know. So we'll see. But very excited for that one. 9 Souls. And the last little thing, a new music pack is coming to Beat Saber, which is a very awesome game if you have VR on the Quest or PlayStation VR. Man, it's probably the best VR game, in my opinion. It's so fun. If you liked things like Guitar Hero, it's just excellent. This is a Britney Spears music pack, which is very odd. And the trailer was so short, and they don't have a blog post, so they actually haven't announced what the songs were. But most of their packs have like 5 to 10 songs, depending on the artist. So, Devin, you can play Hit Me Baby One More Time in a Beat Saber on
That will
October
be so
8th,
nice for me.
if you want. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool packs on there now. I think they had Green Day and Linkin Park. And then they had a Rocket League pack, so there's Rocket League music in there. And I think they have other collaborations with Monster Cat as well. But yeah, just so much music in
well, Britney
Beat
Spears
Saber.
music is in Rocket League right now.
Is it really?
Or maybe it's not right now, but like recently they released some like 90s songs from different groups. And I was playing recently and kept hearing a Britney Spears song.
Funny. I wonder if that was like in the radio or if it's a goal explosion sound effect.
Ooh,
That's
I think it was a
interesting,
goal
though.
explosion. Yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
Okay. Well, that's cool though. Cool. That is all for the announcements and trailers. So next up, for new games that are free to subscription services, got just a few. We talked about these last week, Devin, during the state of play discussion, but just wanted to cover them here in the regular section. But the 3 games included with PlayStation Plus Essential this month in October, which are available right now, are WWE 2K24, the Dead Space remake on PlayStation 5, and Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. So make sure to add those to your library, because they will stay in your library as long as you have a PlayStation Plus subscription, so you could play them in 10 years if the world hasn't ended. Who knows? But there you go. So make sure to add those. And then another just recap of last week, The Last of Us Part 1, which is the PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us, is now on the extra tier. So if you have extra or premium, you can play that pretty-fied version of The Last of Us. And if you haven't played that, play it. It's good. Very good. Alrighty. Xbox announced the first wave of games coming to Game Pass in October. And, well, yeah, let's go over those first, and then they had a little surprise as well. The 5 games are MLB The Show, a baseball game that is made by, what's the name of the team? I think it's San Diego Studio, who Sony owns, which is very funny that the Sony game is on Xbox, but it's really because Major League Baseball wanted their game on more platforms. It doesn't matter. This is a tangent. MLB The Show 24, I think, is the latest MLB game. Open Roads, which is an indie game, I think about kind of like a road trip. And I feel like somebody's riding a bicycle at some point. When we scroll down, we might see that. I think it came out like 6 months to a year ago. I think it's kind of a story game about this road trip. Then Sifu, which is a very cool but difficult game. I think once you like really internalize the fight system, some people are excellent at that with like all the... It's like a very unique button configuration as well, I remember. But yeah, pretty tough, but very fun and cool game. I think the company that makes it is called Slow Clap or something like that. But cool game. It was on PlayStation Plus like a year ago. Mad Streets is the next one. I didn't know much about this, but it says it's the kind of game that makes you crack a smile all while punching someone in the face. A physics-based party game meshed with a brawler. Which actually kind of sounds kind of silly. I don't know, might be fun. And then last up is Inscription, which is a card game. A digital card game. It's a lane battler. You have 3 lanes. And you're building your own little deck. And man, it's so good. Inscription rules. I think you would really like it, Devin. It's kind of like... It's a lane battler like the games we've been playing lately. but you're playing against the table, or excuse me, across the table from this creepy dude that you like between runs. He'll like talk to you in weird ways, and you can stand up from the table, and then like eventually you try to escape the room, and it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. I thought the game was the coolest in like the opening act, and then I think Act 3 was maybe like the least cool, but very cool game. Really recommend Inscription if you like card games. So anyways, those are the 5 games. They're out on the 2nd, 7th, and 10th respectively, which wasn't very helpful, but basically all of them are out except for Mad Streets will be out on the 7th and Inscription on the 10th if you have Game Pass. Then at Tokyo Game Show, Xbox announced 4 more that were available that day. So they're available right now. First one is called All You Need Is Help. And I think this game was made by Q Games, maybe? Or maybe not Q Games, the company that made Pixel Junk. I believe Pixel Junk Monsters and Pixel Junk Shooter. I think I'm thinking of the right game. And it's a cooperative game where you are playing as these different like Tetris shapes and have to do silly puzzles together. It looks very fun to like play like in a cooperative setting, you know, on the same couch probably. I hope it has couch co-op. I'm not 100% sure of that, but if it doesn't, that would be silly. Looks very fun. Very excited to try that one day. So that one's out. Then 2 Mana games. You got Legend of Mana and Trials of Mana. I haven't played a Mana game, but they're a pretty popular JRPG series. And the last one is We Love Katamari Reroll Plus Royal Reverie, which is a lot of words. Katamari is a very odd world as well. I think where you play as this giant ball and you like roll over stuff. Really weird game, but it has like a cult following. I don't know if this Royal Reverie Reroll Plus is a remake or a remaster of one of the earlier ones, but anyways, those are all also on Game Pass, and they announced them at Tokyo Game Show just in the last few days. Okay, then Nintendo announced a couple new ones coming to, what do they call it? Nintendo Online and Expansion Pack, I think they call it. It's 2 F-Zero games. 2 F-Zero games from the Game Boy Advance. I had this first one, I believe. I had F-Zero GP, I think. I don't remember if that's a different game than F-Zero GP Legend. So I definitely remember that first one. It was fun. F-Zero is kind of crazy. It's like really high speed. Hard to stay on the track, in my opinion. And then the second one is called F-Zero Climax, and it only ever released in Japan. So this is the first time you can play it outside of Japan, unless you pirated it before. And if you did, shame on you. But anyways, so those are coming to Nintendo Switch Online on October 11th. And then the Epic Game Store, like always, has a free game this week. This one is called Bear and Breakfast, kind of a play on the bed and breakfast idea, where you play as a bear who is building a bed and breakfast. And so it's kind of a crafting, gathering game where you're trying to build the best bed and breakfast. Looks kind of silly. If you like games like that, like, what is the one that Nintendo makes? Animal Crossing and games kind of that ilk that are a little slower, and you're building stuff, trying to make the best, you know, supermarket or house or The Sims kind of idea, then you might like Bear and Breakfast. So add that one to your Epic Game Store library. And just from this week, that's a bunch of free games. If you have PlayStation Plus, Game Pass, Nintendo Switch Online, or a free account on the Epic Game Store, then you can get some free games there. There's also a lot of free games on Amazon Prime from the month of September. They haven't announced any of the October ones though. So anyways, that's it for the news mini nuke. That's probably the shortest opening segment that we have had. Devin, out of all of those games that we just mentioned on PlayStation Plus and Game Pass and Nintendo Online and the Epic Game Store, which of those do you think would you be most likely to play? I think my recommendations would be Dead Space Remake, which I know you're playing and we'll probably talk about a little bit later. Last of Us, Ugh. I mean, on Game Pass, I'd probably try out MLB The Show, Open Road, Sifu, and Inscription. And all you need is help. They had a good lineup, in my opinion. So I just took all the good picks. So Devin, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm left with F-Zero or We Love Katamari Reroll Royal Reverie.
Yep. No, you can pick the same one.
I agree. Sifu is extremely hard if you're looking for a challenge. Last of Us will forever be good. Dead Space remake, pretty fantastic game. Mana, I feel like I kind of know what that is, but not really. Would be curious. F-Zero was fun when I was 7 years old, and I don't know if it's still good.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of has the same feel as that first Mario Kart game, where like the turning is like odd. Because it feels like your character is just staying, and the world is like turning really fast. Yes. I don't know how to explain that better than that, but it's kind of hard to see like what's around the corner and turn well. Anyways. All right, Devin, we've been playing quite a few games. I'm just going to really quick go over mine, and then I'll let you talk about yours in more depth. I've just been playing the same 2 games as last week. UFO 50, and I've played, I think, 8 or 10 of them. This first one, I just wanted to go over them really quickly. This one's called Tactrix, and you're like moving your little troops around on the left side of the screen, and every few seconds, you can't pause, they move forward, and the different troops do different things. So you're trying to destroy the castle on the right before they destroy your castle. There's archers and dudes on horses. It's kind of a fun little puzzle, but it's a puzzle you have to solve fast because you can't pause it and like make a decision slowly. So it was kind of fun. I like that one, the Tactics. The next one was called Kick Club, and it's kind of a platformer where you play as a kid with a soccer ball, and you're just defeating enemies by kicking that soccer ball up at all of them. I thought it was kind of fun. I made it pretty far actually on my first run. Kind of unique. And I like the silly artwork probably more than anything. All the enemies are like silly sports items, like a badminton shuttlecock and a tennis ball.
That's called a shuttlecock?
Sure is.
No way. That's crazy.
I think so. I didn't love that one. It's not my favorite. Next up was a super weird one. It's called Moon Cat. This game only has 2 buttons. You push a button on the right side of the controller and a button on the left side of the controller to run left and right. And then based on which direction you're running, if you push the opposite button, that one's jump. So if you're moving right, you're holding the right button, and then the left one is jump. But if you're moving left by holding the left button, then the right one's jump, which is really trippy on your mind for a minute. And then if you press jump again after you're in the air, you do kind of this like a slam, like imagine Mario's butt slam, and you can bounce on enemies. It's a very weird one. It seems like it has quite a bit of like secrets to like secret areas to uncover, but it's very difficult. Anyways, wasn't my favorite either. Next, I played Camouflage. I think I talked about this one a little bit last week. I really like this one. It's a puzzle game where you play as a chameleon, and you have to get past all of these animals that are trying to eat you, like frogs, and I can't remember what other animals besides frogs now, but and those frogs have like a line of sight forward, and if you get in their line of sight when you are not the same color as the ground you're on, they see you and come eat you. So you have to, like, you can push a button to camouflage and turn the color of the ground that you're on. So you have to be a little smart about like, okay, I'm going to go here and turn purple and then go down this lane and he won't see me, and then I'll turn green and then I'll go over here. So it's very much a puzzle game. And there's some extra like things you can get in the level. Like if you save the baby chameleon, then hooray. If you get all of the oranges, then you like 100% completed the level. That one's really fun. Just a fun kind of puzzle game in my opinion. The Big Bell Race. This one's kind of a one screen race where you're in this little ball spaceship and you're going around tracks, and you can push a button to smack the other spaceships that are flying around. I like this one quite a bit. I wish that and maybe there are like difficulty levels. Maybe if I get farther, the AI will get a little better. I found it fairly easy to beat them on these races, even though there are some kind of like Mario Kart like power-ups, and they'll hit you. But that one's pretty fun. I like just zipping around the tracks. Next is pin golf. This is a kind of, again, a one screen like golf game. Reminded me of Super Stickman Golf. If you've played that game on the iPhone, it's a fun golf game. And this one's hard though. I really struggled with this one. I like didn't even get on the leaderboard in like 10th place. So I need to get a little better at pin golf. Overbold was next. This was one of my favorite ones. This one is, and I think Devin, yeah, there you go. There it is. This one is a roguelite kind of twin stick shooter where you start every run with like the basic equipment and you're in a room like a gladiator, like a sci-fi gladiator with a weapon, and you have to shoot all these enemies. And then but you earn money, and between the different levels, then you're buying better guns and more health. And you can do this cool thing where you can say, yeah, I'm feeling you can see the enemies that are going to be in the next room. And you can say, I'm feeling brave. I want to make it more challenging. And if you do that, there will be then maybe a different kind or more enemies, but then you'll get more money. So you can kind of push your luck a little bit. And then if you die, you start back over. So that one's fun. I really like Overbold. Next up, Pilot Quest. This one takes the pilot from the Big Bell Race, that one with the little spaceships. And the spaceship has crashed. And then you play as the pilot on some crashed planet that he's on. And it's a really weird one. It's I think they call it an idle game. And I think it's not this one actually, Devin. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you've got it right here. Nope, not that one either. What did I do? Scroll right a little bit more. It's probably going to be quite a few. Not Rakasha. Keep going. Right, Pilot
Here we
Quest.
are.
There
Here we
go.
are.
Yeah, so you play as this dude, and he's got like a yo-yo, and so when you push the yo-yo button, much like in Zelda, like swinging your sword, he throws his yo-yo out, and you can hit enemies. You crash on this place, and there's kind of this home base, and in your home base, it's called an idle game, I think, which is something like Clash of Clans, where you've got like this little home base that you build a building, and that building will generate jewels, like 1 jewel every 10 seconds or something. And then you build another base, and now you're getting 2 jewels every 10 seconds. And so you've got this idle game element at the home base, and one of the resources is meat. And then you spend that meat to go out into the world and fight the stuff I just showed you, or was just talking about. I think it's swapped to a new one at this point, but and so it's really tricky. You have to for every piece of meat, you get 60 seconds added to your clock, but then every time you get hit while you're out there, it subtracts 30 seconds. And if you don't make it back before your time runs out, you die and lose all of your stuff. So you're playing the idle game to get a bunch of resources, convert them into meat so that you can spend the meat to go out into the world. And this is where you'll fight stuff and find secrets. And there's characters that want you to do quests and stuff, but you've got to do them fast so that you can get back to your home base before the timer runs out. It's very unique. Weird kind of melding of an idle game with kind of a top-down Zelda kind of experience. Anyways, that one's very quirky. I like it quite a bit. And then last up is a shmup. It's called Seaside Drive. And this one, you're in this car and you're just at the bottom of the screen, and there's all these enemies above you in kind of classic shmup style, like spaceships and stuff flying above you, and you're shooting upwards at them. Then sometimes the enemies are on the road with you, in front of your car, behind it, so you can push a different button to shoot parallel to the road. The interesting thing about this one is your gun in your car has 3 different strengths, like low, medium, and high, and you charge it up by power sliding, or drifting, I think is what they call it actually. So if you hold still, your weapon is just going to start getting less and less strong. So you have to stay moving basically along the bottom, which makes it trickier. And I think that's a cool twist. So anyways, those are just some of the games I've been playing on UFO 50. It's very unique, very weird. Some of the games are very short, and you can beat them in half an hour. But some of them seem a lot bigger. I've mainly dabbled with kind of the arcadey ones. There are some bigger ones I haven't tried yet. But anyways, UFO 50, still great. Still highly recommend it if you like this era of games. If you don't like games that are on the NES or the Super Nintendo, then definitely not for you, but super cool. And then I've been playing Balatro on my phone and my iPad, and I've talked about Balatro a lot, so I won't really say much more, but if you like card games, poker, or roguelites, or really like any addicting kind of like combo game, like, ooh, I want to score better this game than I did last game. Like, it gives you that feeling. Like, you can have some crazy combos with the weird jokers that you get in your run. That, I mean, you can score like 1 million points in a hand, which is crazy. Balatro is great. Anyways, I said that was going to be a quick update, and then I talked for a long time. But that's what I've been playing.
Fantastic.
Lately. Whew. And Devin, I pulled up 2 videos here for things that I know that you played today, but you may have other things. I'm not sure. If you do, feel free to chat about those as well. But we'll throw over.
I think I've just got the 2, but
okay.
I've been playing I think this is the most recent Dead Space that's come out, right? It's a remake of number 1, but this is the most recently made Dead Space, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This game's amazing. I can tell kind of that it's a remake of a game. I think the movement could be a little more, I don't know if the word's fluent or fluid. Either of them works. But there are some slight inconveniences in some ways. The map system, I don't like to go to the map. It takes too long to get there. But they do have a quick map.
You can tell they had the tram system was to like be a place where we can have a load. Like, we need to load in the other side of the map. Yeah. So we have this tram, and sometimes like, okay, now it's a fetch quest, like go back to this other side of the base. And so I can totally see where you can feel like those older video game mechanisms.
Yeah, there's a few funny things like that in the game, but overall the game is so pretty. It's intense, it's loud, it's brutal, it's dark at times. You got to turn all the lights off in different areas and try to maneuver with your flashlight. Tons of different enemies. Some enemies you want to shoot their limbs off, some you want to shoot in the face. Some climb on walls, and some look like tiger seals. I don't know. There's a lot of weird enemies in the game. You go into space sometimes and it's silent, and you fly around. You're like healing the ship in a way, trying to figure out what's going on in this game. It's fantastic. It really is. The gunplay's fun. It's difficult. We tried to do this on impossible mode on stream, and what a mode that is. It is truly impossible unless you cheat in a way. Pretty much.
Yeah. Or
the
you're
difficulty's
like one of those people
high.
that learn the game perfectly and like actually do it. But I feel like most people are cheating with the saves.
Yes, the game's long enough where it would take a very long time to learn every section so perfectly. So what I think they're doing, basically impossible mode is the hardest difficulty in the game. Enemies take less damage, you take more damage. And if you die one time, the game basically boots you out of impossible mode, puts you in hard, and says you failed. Restart. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to play this game start to finish, you're going to be like 8 to 15 hours probably, I'm guessing, somewhere in there. If you're just going where the path says. But in impossible mode, you probably want to search corners, get stocked up on ammo, that type of thing. So that's crazy. So I will not be doing that platinum trophy, but we got close. We got very close. I'm wearing an antler suit right now from my first playthrough, which was years ago. But it's perfect for October if you're looking for a horror type game to play. It's beautiful, high frame rates. And it's scary enough. It's nice. Yeah. They didn't try to tap too much into this is a horror game, but we are gonna scare you at some parts.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it is if you like games like Resident Evil, then I think you're gonna love this one. If you like sci-fi. I mean, if you don't like sci-fi, then you might not, but yeah, I think personally that it's it's like the top of David's scary game threshold. For some reason, I'm a little less brave with video games than I am with movies as far as the scariness factor. And I think this one is quite a bit scarier than like Resident Evil. I think the creatures are creepier. It's a lot gorier, and darker. And I don't know why aliens for some reason are scarier to me than like zombies. I don't know why, but a bit of body horror and body mutilation too, with like you have to shoot their limbs off. And I think that's one of the coolest things though, that weapon that can adjust from like a horizontal line to a vertical line, and depending on which enemies are out, you need to change the orientation because it's better at cutting off their limbs that way. Super cool idea for a horror game. But yeah, if you're okay with gore and can handle some pretty scary moments, in my opinion, I think it's really great. Really, really good.
Yeah, fantastic. Highly recommend this game. I don't really know what else to say about it. You just got to try it, and don't do what I did. I forgot to do new game plus when I restarted the game and just restarted an entire new game, and I wish I wouldn't have. Because there's basically, the last thing I'll say about it is if you do new game plus, you're going to get enough nodes in the game to upgrade some weapons you didn't upgrade in your first playthrough. And since I started an entire new game, I'm kind of unable to do so. But it's so good. It really
every
is.
New suit and every gun upgrade, I think they expect you to go through twice. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, you just have to learn what the enemy's weakness is and be swapping guns constantly. You have quick keys left, right, up and down on the D-pad. And once you learn that, it's not too bad. But it's super fun. Super beautiful.
Yeah, and on PlayStation Plus. So if you have a PlayStation, play it. It's good.
Yes, sir. I played one other weird game today. So we had someone buy us this game to stream. And this game was called The Baby in Yellow. And honestly, a super pretty game. Kind of cartoon-ish. I was playing on mouse and keyboard. That's how I can do the thing. But he bought us this on Steam, and basically it's for spooky season, kind of horror vibes in a way. Basically, this baby becomes a demon. And
you're like babysitting it? Was that the idea?
Yeah, basically changing its diaper, feeding it, and trying to find it because he's teleporting everywhere and you don't know where he is. What else happened in this game? I was running around from like a demon form of him. What did you see?
That was most that I saw. I didn't get to watch a ton of this one, but it just reminded me of like Jack from The Incredibles if you just mixed him with like a little bit of a creepy demon baby.
Yeah, it really, really is. Basically, the baby just inconveniences you the entire game. This little robot tries to help you, and then he goes crazy sometimes. And this will be a good part for anybody watching the podcast. You're about to see, kind of wrecked that baby with the cannonball, and then decided to turn him into one right here. So this is a perfect spot to show. He's a little dizzy right now, but he was being a nuisance. And the game was like, you got to take care of him before we can move on. So I put him into cannon, sent him to space. He came back within a few minutes, but very weird game. Honestly, it was funny. It ran super well. We had no issues with the game. People really enjoyed it because of its cute art style, yet it kind of was scary. I don't know how much he spent on it, but I recommend it if it's like $10, something like that. But it's funny. It really was. It was quick. I think we beat it in 2 hours.
Yeah. How many like acts did it have? 5?
Ooh, 4 or 5. Maybe 4. It's on Unreal Engine 5, it said. I don't know. That seems like they're updating stuff. It must be loved by some. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like with games like this one and Poppy Playtime and whatever the others are called, they add new chapters periodically. So they'll probably add some more to this game if it has been doing well.
I agree.
And those are on brand for you right now in October with your Halloween decorations.
Yeah, I may dabble in Five Nights at Freddy's for the first time in my life tomorrow. So
wow,
could be interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I've never played one of those either, but there are so many of them now. So I don't know. I feel like some people like them and There must be something to them because they have done really well, made tons of money. Cool. Well, that is it for the video games we've been playing. For board games this last week, I only played one. I had to cancel my standing board game night, and but Devin came over and we played another 2-player card game. We're kind of obsessed with those right now.
Yes, we did.
This one is called Radlands, and yeah, it's really excellent. Just quickly to explain it, you have 3 different lanes, and at the base of your lane you have a camp, and you have to protect those camps from being destroyed by putting people in front of the camps to defend them. And then your lanes line up with your opponent's lanes, and they have camps at the end of theirs, and they're protecting them with people. And each card generally has 2 health. If it gets injured, you tip it, or tap it, I think is the Magic the Gathering term. You tilt it 90 degrees. And then if it gets injured again, then it's destroyed. And this game has a couple unique twists to it that I really like. First, the backside, well, I like that there's a shared deck. Like, I didn't make my own deck, and you don't make your own deck. It's just a big pile of cards, and we both draw from the same deck. That makes it really simple to jump in. Like, you don't have to build a deck or anything like that. We played Compile a couple weeks ago, and that one, the deck building is super easy, so like that's not a barrier. But some games have like, okay, we want you to make a 60 card deck, and here's 500 cards, so go make your deck for 4 hours and then we'll play. You know, so this one's just put the deck of cards on the table, and then everyone choose a couple camps and we're ready. Super cool. The artwork's great. It's by Manny Tremblay, who does the art for Dice Throne, and I think he's one of the designers of Dice Throne, which is probably my favorite 2-player game. Yeah, Radlands, super great. The other mechanisms I like besides the shared deck. You have water that you can use on your turn, generally 3 of them, and they are your action points, and different cards will like attack or let you draw a new card for 2 water, or yeah, you use the water to do everything. It's kind of nice that you just have a system with 3 action points and you can spend them however you want. And then on the right side of your 3 lanes, one of the, in my opinion, the coolest part of this game is the event column. And it has 3 different rows with a label 1, 2, and 3 on them. And at the beginning of your turn, any events that are in position 1 will go off, and any events in position 2 or 3 will slide forward. And so some events get put in play like at line 1 and will trigger next turn, and some of them are better and will, you know, be in line 3 and will take a couple more turns before they will trigger. And so being able to see what events your opponent has lined up is really cool. And then you have 2 cards on the other side of your stack, or of your columns, that are always available for you. They're your Raiders, which is a level 2 event that you always have access to, and the Water Tower, which lets you basically take a water from this round and then take that Water Tower into your hand, and then next turn spend the Water Tower to get a 4th water. So if you didn't use all your water one turn, it's a way to bank it for their next turn, basically. And inside of that, I guess the one other thing I like with the shared deck, I like it when games use the backside of their cards in a creative way. And this one does that too, where you usually play cards face up for like the regular people that have 2 health. There are some things you can do to get a punk, which is a card face down. And it only has 1 health, but it can still defend. And there are some cards that, like if you have a punk in play, will let you do something extra. I really like the punk system too. And the punks, you don't look at them, keep them face down. Then if they get destroyed, they go back on top of the deck, which is a cool thing. Anyways, I just talked for a whole bunch. I think my favorite part of our play, this when we played a few days ago, was I had a card that let me get a bunch of punks out. And then I played an event that let me take all of my people, including punks, back into my hand, which was really fun because I just got like 3 or 4 punks out, didn't know what they are because they're face down. and I just got to flip them all over into my hand, which was a fun moment.
Yeah, you capitalized on a bunch of other abilities with that strategy. And then ultimately I lost because that seems to be how it goes. Just barely for me, just a couple losses.
It was
lately.
Very close.
It was.
Yeah, and the camps are really cool. Each camp has a different ability on it, and you get 6 of them at the start of the game, and then you choose 3 of them that you'll play with. And one of my camps I chose was like draw 3 extra cards and then immediately destroy this camp. So I was basically playing with 2 camps, but I had extra cards. So yeah, they have some really cool abilities on them. Devin had one, I think, called the Juggernaut, that on each turn he could like move it forward in its column, kind of like that huge car on Mad Max with the guy playing the guitar on the front. And if it ever got to the front and you needed to move it again, you got to just destroy one of my 3 camps. That was a scary one, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. How'd you like this one compared to Compile and Dice Throne? I think those are probably the only other 2 lane. Well, Dice Throne isn't a lane battler, but the only other 2 like 2-player card games that I've had you play to this point.
I liked Radlands a lot. I would say it's more complex, which means I think you could enjoy playing it more times.
Yeah.
Than the other one. Than Compile. Compile is different where if I'm in lane 1 and you're in lane 1, I know what cards you've placed in lane 1. You're really not attacking me in opposite lanes. We're just attacking in the one. In Radlands, I can attack your lane 3 characters from lane 1, which made us have to be way more aware of what was on the board.
Yeah.
I needed to know all of your perks versus mine, that type of thing. Really cool aesthetic to the game. We use the playmats. As you can see in this picture, they don't have the playmats right here. The playmats organize things tremendously, and I'm glad you had them. I think it's super cool. Let's see if I can find them here. But I loved the game.
Yeah.
Very unique mechanics. Sometimes it was hard for me to know what to do on a turn. I was like, I'm just going to draw cards, or maybe I should use an ability, but that ability doesn't seem like it's going to do enough to push me forward. So I'll just draw cards, or I'll just get more water for next round.
Yeah. I think this is one that gets better the more times you play and the more you start to know the deck a bit better. Because I hadn't played in probably 6 or 7 months, and this was your very first time ever playing, so it was all brand new to you.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is basically, you might have touched on this, but you start by getting 6 cards, and there's 6 camp cards, and then you choose out of those 6. You're basically doing a quick deck build of what perks of what camps do I like the most. I'm going to discard 3 of these and never use them the entire game. I'm going to keep 3, and hopefully this is a good trio of perks to go against whatever your opponent chooses. And I thought that was a cool system because your game is going to be so different every time you play.
Yeah, and those camps are very important for your strategy. So I do like that. There's quite a few. I think there are like 30 maybe camps in the base game. And in the next month or 2, the Cult of Chrome expansion comes out. And they didn't want to mess with the deck distribution of the main deck. So that expansion is only more camp cards.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of cool. It makes it easy, again, that it will also fit in the box, so you don't have to like worry about a second box for the expansion or anything. Yeah, Radlands is great. I love that you can just get the box. It's like $15 to $20. You know, if you get it on sale, you might get it closer to 15. It might be 20 or 25 at full price. And inside that box is everything you need to play. There's like nothing extra, no booster packs or anything. And you can just play like that, and you don't need the playmats. It has the water tokens and everything, and with 3 lanes in the event line, like it's not too much to visualize in your head. And like the first 5 times I played the game was without the playmats. And you can totally do that. But I do think the playmats add just kind of to the aesthetic. They look really cool. Has a spot for everything. I think it helps a new player to know a little bit like, what can I do with my water on my turn? There is the player aid card, which is helpful. So you do know what you can do, but It just is printed right there, like spend 2 water to draw a card. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I could do that. So I think the mats are really awesome, but maybe just get the base game first, try it a few times, and then decide if you want to splurge on those. I got them secondhand from some guy, because getting the playmats can be a bit pricey if you get them brand new. But yeah, Radlands is great. One of my very favorite card games. So anyways, that's it for the board games, though, that we played this week. Like I mentioned, just kind of a slower week for news, so we don't have a lot in the news section. But before we get there, really quickly, just covering what we are excited for this coming week, or coming weeks, I guess is fine. Really quickly, I'm just gonna, let's just hop into, you don't even need to pull up these links. I'm excited to play more UFO 50. We went over those like 9 games, and that's less than 20% of UFO 50, if my math's correct that I'm doing in my head here live. Just a cool idea to have that many different experiences in there. And then Balatro being free on Apple Arcade. Everyone needs to try it. It's so fun. Just an excellent card game. So anyways, those are the 2 video games I'm pumped to play. Devin, I know that you are probably getting pumped for Silent Hill. I think it's like 6 days away.
Is that how close we are?
I think so. Silent Hill release date.
Here it is here. October 8th, 2024. Yeah. I will be playing this the second it comes out.
I hope it's great. We kind of talked about it last week, but it seems
Don't
like
be a dud.
Yeah, the latest previews that went up were pretty positive, so fingers crossed for that one. As for board games, I had quite a few come in this week, so I'm pretty excited to play a lot of things. I'm just gonna, Devin can pull them up on the screen if he wants, but I'm gonna also grab them here. Got Empire's End. Got it like at a great price. Very excited to try this one. Devin, have I ever had you play the small card game No Thanks, where you put the little black stones on the cards instead of taking them?
Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very fun little card game that you can play in 10 minutes. No Thanks is great. You can kind of play it with anyone. Empire's End is basically, if you took No Thanks and made it a little bit bigger of a game, you have 11 different buildings in your empire, but a bunch of disasters are right on the verge of happening. And so your empire starts worth a ton of points, but every time one of your buildings gets destroyed, it gets flipped over, and you won't get to score those points if you aren't able to repair that building by the end of the game. So how the game works is generally a disaster card will come out, and you have to put a resource on it in order to not take it, just like in No Thanks. Or you take it and it will destroy one of your buildings. There is a little bit more going on. Then you get to tuck that disaster card, and it'll have some new ability, and you can do some actions to repair those buildings. It has this cool kind of fight mechanism where everyone will put some of their axe resources in their hand and then reveal them simultaneously, and whoever played the most wins the fight. And you keep your resources behind a shield. So there's a little bit more going on. Very famous designer. He did what's the horse racing one? Ready, Set, Bet and Space Base. And he's done a lot of other games, but those are probably 2 of his most famous ones. Very excited to play that one. Other than that one, we got Beacon Patrol. This is a very chill, zen-like cooperative game where you are playing as kind of like the Coast Guard, I guess. And you are, I almost said driving, but you're sailing around in your little boat, playing tiles to discover as much of the ocean as you can. And you can play 1 player or up to 4. And it's a cooperative game, which I don't generally like, but this one is it's short and simple and gives me kind of King Domino vibes, where you're placing a tile down, doing something, and trying to score in a cool way. So excited to try that one too. Then I got a brand new game from one of my favorite game companies, Devere. This is called Cities. This one probably reminds me of not exactly actually. It's a drafting game where you are taking cards, tiles, and these cool building pieces and making your own little city. It's a pretty simple game, even though it looks a little bit like color overload when you see it, because there's like buildings of 4 different colors and stuff. But yeah, it's been very popular. It was on the that Essen SPIEL board game geek list. This one was very high on there, so I'm very excited that one just delivered too. Pumped to try that. And I've already talked about Andromeda's Edge. I'm very pumped to continue to play that. Have it here behind me. I got one more cooperative game. Who am I? I say I don't like them, but I decided to try 2 new ones. This is Bomb Busters. And in this one, you are trying to defuse a bomb so it doesn't explode together with the people you're playing with. So you have a bunch of these wires in a tray in front of you, and you have to use logic to cut the right wires from your teammates' trays. They put them in order from lowest to highest, and I won't go into like every detail of how it works, but you want to cut the blue wires. If you cut too many yellow wires, you lose, and if you cut a red wire, you lose immediately. So you have to be smart about which ones you cut. You can get some tools, and it's supposed to be really great. It has, I think, 66, it says right here on the box, different missions in the game. So the first 7 are like the tutorial, and then number 8 is like, this is the full base game. And then from 9 to 66 are like, you take on different bosses, I think, because they're in like different like hidden tuck boxes that you're not supposed to open until you get to that scenario. And I don't know, I haven't looked at them obviously, but some of them are like, do it, defuse this bomb within a time limit, or this time you can't talk to each other. So they're different scenarios like that, kind of like games like The Crew. It's supposed to be very fun. Very excited to try Bomb Busters as well. So got a lot of deliveries this week, Devin. Too many games to play. I need a game night tomorrow to be 12 hours long so we can play them all. But
I saw Bomb Busters and Cities. They both looked interesting to me on the Spiel site.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Yep.
I did.
Yeah, they're both brand new and have a little bit of buzz, so I'm excited to try those. All right, Devin. First item of video game news at Tokyo Game Show. I think it was Ken, the name Kataguri, maybe. I think he might be Sony's CEO. I don't remember all of these details, but he gave a presentation, and it was revealed in that presentation that Black Myth Wukong has sold 20 million copies in its first month, which is a monstrous number. They're in like Call of Duty territory at this point. Just a massive, massive success. I think pretty well deserved. The game is very fun. I have enjoyed what I've played. I know you finished it. I think you've beat every side boss and everything too. So just not much else to say. I don't think
Fantastic
it seems
game.
Like
I do. Sorry, I had to cut you off. I do have one thing to say. I saw an interview, and this guy said, I don't know what it was about Wukong, but it just instantly had mad support from everyone. Everyone wanted it to work so bad, and it got so much hype. But then he compared it to Stellar Blade, and he said, I think Stellar Blade is a better game. He said the fighting in Stellar Blade is so good. The open world areas are better. The map layout's better. And I was like, that's interesting. I only played the demo of Stellar Blade, but sometimes it's just whatever is the trend and whatever people finally decide to be positive about does better.
Yeah, I agree. I have a few thoughts about that. I think that Black Myth Wukong being one of the first big games to come out of China was a big deal. I think a lot of even American people like me, I'm like, wow, that's cool. We don't really see games coming out of China. And I think that Stellar Blade is out of North Korea, if I'm not mistaken. So not incredibly different in that way, but I do think that it being a game from China has been a big boost to the game. Is Stellar Blade on PC or is it only on PlayStation 5? Because that would
I
also
do not know, but I can find out.
Stellar Blade PC.
Oh, he's looking it up. Perfect.
I was trying. Yeah, I don't think it is yet. So that's got to be another huge factor. Sony must have paid them like quite a bit to be like, yeah, keep it on PlayStation 5 only for a while.
That would be the only
I
reason
think,
to not release your game everywhere. Right?
I think so. There are like some instances where I think a delayed release can kind of give a game a second pop. I think of games like Hollow Knight and Hades when I think of this. Like Hades was on PC in early access, and then it had its version 1.0. Then it came to Switch, and then like it was started getting a ton of buzz at that point. Then it came to PlayStation and Xbox, or maybe Xbox and then PlayStation, I think like 6 months to a year later. And so it had like boom, like 3 or 4 spikes in like excitement. Whereas if you release it everywhere simultaneously, I do think that's generally better because you just cast a wider net. But if you're not able to do that, having a few spikes, I think helped Hollow Knight as well quite a bit.
What are your thoughts on releasing movies only in movie theaters? I have an issue. I have some thoughts with that I will say real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if the spikes from releasing in theaters this day and 3 months later on Amazon Prime or something, is that spike going to generate more than that whole plateau would have generated over the whole amount of time? What if some people are like, I don't go to movies anymore. I don't want to. I don't enjoy it like I used to. I have children, this or that, but I really wanted to see that. And then they never noticed that it landed on streaming platforms and never watched it. There's been a lot of instances where I try to watch a movie and I'm like, the fact that I can only watch that in theaters, or it was only in select theaters not near me because it was at some film show a year ago and they did like this private theater release and I can't find it anywhere, is weird to me. I'm like, just throw it, just give it to everybody. And I don't know, but I don't know anything about money or business. So what are your thoughts?
That's a tough one. I don't know that I know enough about the movie industry to really know that. I think, just the historical factor of we make our money at the movie theater generally, because the movie theaters make almost nothing on the movie tickets, right? Of the $10 or whatever, I think the movie theaters only make like $1. That might be very round and incorrect math, but it's somewhere in that area. So the company that's actually publishing the movie, Disney, is making 90% of that movie ticket. And so they make a lot of money from the movies in the movie theater. And then, then when it comes to streaming, is there as big of a pop when the movie already had a release date, a month earlier? Yeah, that's a good question. Because I do think that most people our age and younger, that releasing them the same day would be totally fine. And you'd probably make the same amount of money because people would just rent it on Amazon for $10, just like they would go to the movie theater for, $10 or whatever. But I wonder if there are enough people of like the older generations that just are never going to rent something on a digital service like that are going to movies. I think of grandma and grandpa or something like that. Not that they go to the movies often, but I don't know. I think there is a contingent, probably an older one, that is more movie theater focused. That would be my guess. Because I do think some movies would benefit from it being both, but it's probably hard to diagnose beforehand. Like, is this movie going to be one that will do better if we release it both places immediately, or will this movie do better if we stagger them a little bit? I feel like for a minute the staggering was really short. Like the movie would hit movie theaters and then like 3 weeks later it was on stream, like a streaming service like Prime. But I feel like they're starting to stretch it back out a little bit, like 2 months or 2.5 sometimes.
Right. Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, that came out a while ago, and I think that's just now landing on streaming platform.
Yeah. And they probably make that decision a little bit like based on how well it's doing in the movie theater. Like if it's doing really bad, then 2 weeks later they'll put it on streaming. But if it's making a ton of money like Deadpool, then they probably want it to stay there exclusively for as long as possible. Yeah, I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts. I don't know the perfect scenario. I really like going to the movies, but it is hard. As soon as you have kids, like it's hard to do. So I kind of hope that they don't fully go away, but I would be totally fine with day one it's in both places, because then I would have the choice. While my kids are still young and they're upstairs in their bed sleeping, then we'll watch movies on Prime. But then eventually when they move out of the house and we want to go see a movie on day one, then we'll probably go to the theater, get some popcorn and a soda. I don't know. That's a tough one. And games are a little bit different, but some parallels can probably be drawn there. The other thing I was going to say about a Black Myth Wukong versus Stellar Blade, I think the PC thing and the China thing are very big factors into why it sold 20 million, where Stellar Blade has not, for sure. I know they announced 1 million at one point. They might have announced 2 million as well. I can't remember, but I wonder, and this is just a theory, and because I think this is changing slowly in the movie industry. In movies for a long time, having a PG-13 movie generally meant that it would make more money than an R-rated movie. Just because your audience is bigger, casting a wider net, kind of like I mentioned. Nowadays, you see examples of that not being the case, like with Deadpool, which is doing very well. And things like Oppenheimer, which was rated R, but most of the big, like huge, Marvel movies or Titanic or Avatar, the movies that are making $2 billion plus, they're all PG-13. And I wonder if Stellar Blade's like over sexualization of the main character and it being like a hard M, whereas Wukong is technically rated M, but it feels like a PG-13 game, in my opinion. There's a couple cuss words and a little bit of blood, but it's not F-bombs and a half-naked chick. So, I don't know. That would be another thought I would have as to just the reach of the games. But anyways, cool for Black Myth Wukong. It seems like I think they said that they are working on a DLC pack or something for the game that I think will be out next year. I imagine they're also going to do a sequel, or maybe not even a sequel. Maybe they just, do an entirely new game. But Game Science is probably going to have a pretty big following after this, I would imagine. So good for them. Very cool. Love it when games sell well. I wish I could make something that would sell 20 million units.
Oh my gosh.
and yes. Make, $1.50 per unit or something. Because that company, the game's $60. They sell it on PlayStation and Steam primarily. PlayStation and Steam take 30% of whatever you sell on their platforms. So if they've sold 20 million copies, not all of them would be like full price necessarily, but I don't think it's been on many sales at this point. But you could probably get a copy from like CD Keys or something for slightly cheaper. But let's just say, so we got 20 million copies times $60.
I'm gonna guess
that's
800 million.
Yeah, so that's $1.2 billion. And then if you times that by 0.7, which is what they would earn, that's $840 million. So a nice closing in on $1 billion in money's made from
crazy
Black Myth Wukong. It is crazy. That's like top echelon of amount sold. Like I can't remember for sure, but I think that's like more than The Last of Us has sold more than, I think Spider-Man sold more, but that's probably like in God of War range and like what Call of Duty sells like every year. Like that's very upper echelon. The only kind of echelon above that is like Nintendo and Rockstar. So I don't know, kind of crazy. Next up, just a very, very small one we can go over very fast. Nintendo, continuing its series of litigation, reached out to a company called Ryujinx, who was working on a Switch emulator, and the guy didn't give many details, but basically said, hey, I'm taking this offline after being contacted by Nintendo. And I think the note he said there, I think it's safe to say what the outcome is, end quote. Basically, they told him they would sue him for millions of dollars if he didn't take the thing down. So anyways, that's been shut down too. Seems like they really want that tied up before the Switch 2 comes out.
Hey, he got his name out there, though. Imagine you send Nintendo an email. You ain't getting a response. You rip them off. You rip them off, and they're like, oh, we want to know you now. Heck yeah.
Yeah, maybe he got a job offer.
Yeah, truly.
It's like one of those black hat hackers. What do they call it? White hat? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. All right, that's all the video game news this week, though. So just those couple little items. All right, Devin, that is going to take us to crowdfunding corner for board games in crowdfunding whose campaigns end in like the next 2 weeks-ish. There's 6 games I wanted to highlight this week. There are so many. I had a hard time even choosing which ones to go over. There were probably 10 more I could have had on, and I was like, I feel like we can't be in this segment for an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So I cut it to 6. I think these ones were the ones that were most intriguing to me. First up, we got Gems of Iridecia. Weird name. And a pretty simple game. Basically, you start at the bottom of this board, and you are moving up the board by moving your little meeple to a space that is north or east or west from your piece. And you'll get some of these fancy gems from those locations. And then you can press your luck a little bit and roll some dice. And if you roll values that are higher than the current value, the current value of that gem, then you were able to mine extras. And the price of those gems is shown on dice of the matching color. So the purple gem is worth whatever is shown on the purple die. And that will change. So that purple die isn't rolled. It's just a counter, basically. So the value of a gem can be 1 to 6. Pretty simple game. Other than that, you're spending those gems in order to like build relics and tools that will help you to, I don't know, better excavate the land and get points. Really a pretty simple game, in my opinion. The game ends when somebody gets to the top of the map, which I think is kind of back to the hub city of the game. There's like a fancy jewel under one of the face down tiles up there called the, what they call it, the Iridecia stone maybe, or something. A cute aesthetic. The pieces are cool. The deluxe version has these cool wooden pieces that have like, what did they call it? Luminescent, like printing on it. It's like very shiny. Cool dice. Very light game though. So I don't know that this one is for me. I have games of this weight that I generally I think would prefer, and I don't experiment a ton with super light games just because I don't feel like I'm going to play them more than a few times. And I want a game that has enough on its bones that I'm going to play it 10, 20 times would be like a perfect world for me. But this one's been getting a bit of buzz. I think it's a cool idea, simple game. If you like kind of hex movement and set collection and pretty simple rule sets, then it might be a hit for you. That one's on Kickstarter, ends on the 10th, so in about a week. Next up is Railroad Tiles. This is a game from Horrible Guild. They're one of my favorite board game publishers. And this game is kind of a sequel to a game called Railroad Inc., but that one was a roll and write where you would roll these weird dice that had different roads and train tracks on them, and then you would draw those train tracks on your own little map in order to make like the best kind of network of roads and train tracks. This one is a tile laying game, and it has one of my favorite drafting systems in it, very similar to something like King Domino, where when it's your turn to choose which section of tiles you want, you can take the section that has 4 tiles in it, which is obviously the best one. But by doing that, you will then be last to choose in the next round. But if you take the one farthest to the left, that one will only have 2 tiles in it. But then you'll be in first place to choose next round. So by choosing something better, you'll be later in turn order next turn. Love that system. It works so good in King Domino. This game just has a bit more going on than King Domino, so I'm excited about that because I feel like I've seen everything King Domino has to offer. It's a very short, light, 15-minute game. In this one, you after you draft those tiles, you'll then put them in your little map in front of you, and based on which, they have these circle tokens that will have like cars or pedestrians or trains on them, and then you can place them at designated spots on your board. So you're trying to build like connected networks, like the train tracks. If you're able to have lots of train, what are they called? Train meeples on the same train track, then you'll score a lot of points by doing that. So that's kind of how the base game works. It also comes with this free, for the Kickstarter here, this won't be included in the retail version that comes out later, kind of worlds expansion that has a bunch of mini objectives you can add in, like temples and rail cars and all kinds of other things. And then it also has, I think, was it 7 different add-on expansions? So you take the base game and then you can add on like the, and I can't remember, canal expansion, or I can't remember what all of them were, but there's a ton of them. They have a few different pledges. Like the base pledge is the game plus that free worlds expansion. Then they have the advanced one, which is the base game, the worlds expansion, plus your choice of 3 of the other expansions. Or they have the collector's one that comes in a slightly bigger box that just has everything in it, which is cool. And that one also has pieces for a 5th player, which is really cool too, to be able to play a game like this with 5 players. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a pretty simple tile laying game, but with so many expansions and quite a few different modules you can just add in. It seems like you could take this from like the most basic level and play almost with like, 10-year-olds, or you could throw in the objectives, throw in an expansion. I don't know if you can like mix and match, like we're going to play with these 3 expansions. Maybe you can, to kind of like a much bigger and more complex game. So anyways, that's Railroad Tiles. Lots of cool pieces. They're all screen printed in this version, where they won't be in the retail version. They also have Railroad Inc. on sale here. And yeah, these 2 designers from Horrible Guild, I think their names are Yalmar Haq and Lorenzo Silva. They're just 2 of my, that's like one of my favorite designing teams for board games. They generally make like medium and medium light games, so they're not making like ultra heavy stuff, but games like Evergreen and The Great Split and Railroad Inc. I think what else I have from them, Dragon Castle, that's one of my favorites that almost never gets talked about by other people. They just, I really like them. So anyways, that's Railroad Tiles. Lots of options there if you like tile laying games, like Carcassonne or King Domino, like I already mentioned, that have lots of modularity and different ways to play it. That's what this one's all about. That one is also on Kickstarter and also ends on the 10th. Next up is Dinogenics. This is a reprint of a game that came out a few years ago. with an expansion called New Arrivals and a big box called the Park Manager Edition. And that Park Manager Edition includes the base game, the New Arrivals expansion that's in here, and another expansion that I can't remember the name of. Controlled Chaos, I think is what it was called. This game is basically Jurassic Park, the board game. There are quite a few, well, quite a few might not, there's a train. Quite a few might not be the right word, but there are a few other games that do this Jurassic Park theme too, where you're building a dinosaur park and you're researching DNA to get new dinosaurs, and then your dinosaurs might like cause some havoc or eat a guest or something. This one is a bit simpler than some of the others. For example, I have Dinosaur World, which is the sequel to Dinosaur Island. I also have Dinosaur Island Roar and Write, so I have two. But this one's a little bit simpler. You're trying to collect sets of different dinosaur cards in order to fully complete their DNA so that you can put them in your park. Then you have to have fences around them, and if you don't have them fenced off correctly, that's when you have to roll kind of those danger dice to see if they hurt your buildings or the visitors at your park. This one, it's kind of interesting. This one has a lot more like serious art style than Dinosaur World. Dinosaur World's art style is like more cartoony, but this game is a lot simpler than Dinosaur World. So I feel like the themes or like the artwork is a little mismatched there a little bit, but I personally like the cartoony dinosaur art style a little bit better than this one. But this one reviewed pretty well. I think people generally liked it. If you are looking for a game with the Jurassic Park feel that's a little bit simpler than some of the others in the market, has cool T-Rex and Brachiosaurus meeples, then this one might be one for you. Since I have Dinosaur World and Dinosaur Island Roar and Write, probably not one for me right now, but wanted to give it a shout out. That one ends on the 11th and it's on GameFound, not on Kickstarter. All right, we're halfway through, Devin. 3 more. Next up is Ice and Idols. This game is from Inside Up Games, and they do great stuff. One of their most famous games is Earth. It won like a bajillion Game of the Year awards in 2022. I think it was 2022. Maybe it was last year. I can't remember. This is a bit of a simpler game. Has really cool artwork. And you're playing as these explorers exploring this like ice cave. And you have to move through these tunnels on the ice cave. The board is very unique. It has kind of this bottom section that are kind of like the details underneath the ice. And then these, I think they're acrylic, different clear transparent pieces that go on top of that on this weird grid. And those acrylic ice pieces have gold pathways on them that like dictate the tunnels that you can move through. And then those ice pieces will sometimes move and shift around, and the entire board will rotate. So the temple's like rotating and the ice is sliding around, which is probably the most unique part of this game. Other than that, you're just moving your explorer around the castle. Castle's not the right word. The cave system, the temple, to find these artifacts. And then once you get one, you can either kind of research it, or you can nest it in your player board to use its power if you deliver it to a certain spot. So it's a pretty simple game. You're like moving along these gold pathways, picking up stuff, and then moving along the gold pathway to deliver it somewhere. And that will get you points and make you more powerful. And then there are some special abilities you can do, which will rotate the board or move some ice. And each of the 4 player characters has a special ability, like this keysmith guy. He can jump over a location, but he can only do that if you spend 4 action points. Action points are, I feel like, kind of making a comeback. That was a board game mechanism that was used a lot, and then people kind of moved away from it They're like, action points are so outdated and dumb. But now I feel like they're coming back, and I kind of like them sometimes. World Wonders and Radlands with the water. Those are technically action points, just in a water token. But yeah, I don't know. So it seems pretty fun. It's pretty light. I didn't even look at the price yet, but yeah, it looks like the base pledge is $42, and then they have another pledge here that looks like it has an expansion and like a little double, what would you call that? A stand that has 2 different levels. So like a foot off the table, there's kind of a top level. So yeah, there's a bit there. I think the idea of the shifting board is cool, but games where I'm simply like moving on a grid, like, okay, I'm going to use 4 action points to move, and I move here, 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 here. I feel like that's generally less exciting to me than other game mechanisms. But this expedition expansion thing, I should have scrolled farther. This looks a little more interesting to me, so I'll have to check that out. But that's Ice and Idols from Inside Up Games. That one's on Kickstarter and ends on the 12th. Got another train coming through. I was telling Devin earlier in the show that the trains have to honk at every intersection right now because the little blockers that we couldn't remember the names of are not working for some reason. So sorry for the train honking. Okay, this game is called Cult, and I think it's a cool trick-taking idea. So it's a trick-taking game where you play a card into each trick, but it has a unique scoring system in that you don't score points or win the game just by winning tricks. After the trick is done, then whoever won the trick gets to take a card from that trick, and then they can play it into 2 different areas, like a scoring tableau or to what they call a dream area, I think, and that dream area will become your future hand. I haven't played this one, and I feel like trick-taking games can either be hit or miss for me, and a lot of that comes down to trying it out. But it's basically a post-trick draft where whoever wins the trick takes a card from that trick and then decides if they want to use it as a scoring card or kind of to nest it into their hand for later. Cool idea. Very kind of indie project here where, it's very simple artwork, and you can tell, I think it's their first project, but trick-taking is so big right now, and this does seem like a unique spin on it. So not much more to say about Cult other than good on them for trying something cool and unique, and I hope it does well. Scroll up to the top, Devin. I just want to see how it's doing. So they haven't quite hit their goal. They're at $4,400-ish out of a $5,400 goal that's converted from Canadian or something. But so yeah, check out Cult. I think it looks like a cool spin on trick-taking games. I like unique ones. All right, and then last up, this one was tricky for me. I think it looks cool, but it's one of those projects that's from Japan, and so it was a little tricky for me to fully nail down the rule set and everything else. And it's also this company's first created. So this one is kind of like pie in the sky for me in that it could end up being really cool, but a little tricky too. It delivers to Japanese backers in November, which is like incredibly soon. But they said it would take 1 to 3 months after that for it to ship overseas to other countries. But in this game, you are drafting dice. I really like dice drafting in a game where someone rolls a bunch of dice, and then each player chooses a die and does something with it. Places it somewhere special, or gets to use the number of pips on top of the die they took to do something. And this one uses that as one of the main mechanisms. And then you're upgrading your own flying boat spaceship, and you can put these Tetris shaped tetromino pieces in the engine room to upgrade your ship, or you can focus on kind of this rondel area and putting different tiles on top of the actions there. Kind of gave me, I can't even think of a good example, but it gave me vibes of a game that has a few different mini games inside of it, like different segments. Like, okay, here is the tetromino mini game, and here is the mini game. That's a cool section there where you put these blue little energy cubes on this wheel, and then you get to rotate it at certain times, and it like rotates all of the cubes with it. And so that's like its own thing. And then the dice drafting is on its own different board. And again, I tried to read the rule book and it was a little unclear. So this one is a, like I said, just kind of a pie in the sky. I hope it's really great, and I'm wishing them all the best. I really like how it looks visually, but I would have to, for me to back it, I'll probably have to do a ton more research on this one, just because it's a page that's a little tricky to even grok, which is a weird word. But anyways, that's Grow Sky, which is also a weird name for a game. I think the Grow is the name of this bird that can like help you build your boat. So some weird concepts in there, but pretty looking game. I like dice drafting. I like engine building. I like tetromino sections in games. So a lot of the checkboxes for me were like, ooh, sounds cool, sounds cool, sounds cool. Then I read the rulebook and I was like, I don't know what I'm reading, but sounds cool. Anyways, that one ends on the 13th and it is on Kickstarter. All right, Devin, a little bit shorter of a crowdfunding corner for us this week with 6 games that we went over. We got a trick-taking game, we got a dinosaur game, a game about gems, one about railroads, one with a spinny board about ice, and one with big grow birds and flying spaceships. So which game is Devin's pick of the week for the first week of October?
This was hard for me, but I think it's going to be this one right here, Colt.
Ooh, cool.
Yep. They're not backed by as many people. Seems fun enough. It's relatively inexpensive. There's a print and play for $3.
Love it. Yeah, I think this one, again, it's a little hard to know until you've kind of played a trick-taking game, in my opinion, but cool idea. Just kind of adding in a riff on a trick-taking game that I don't think has ever been done before. Which I feel like in that trick-taking genre, there's a lot of repeats. Where like, okay, well, we're doing the thing where you can't follow the suit that was played. It's like, okay, well, these 7 other games tried that. Whereas Cult, this seems very unique. So cool. I love that. My pick of the week is going to be Railroad Tiles. I really like Horrible Guild, like I mentioned. Love this design team. I think this game could probably replace like a lot of tile laying games for me. I already mentioned King Domino. And it kind of gives me that like puzzle feel of like I want to really make like the perfect little network of roads and railroads on my own little spot. I think it looks really like a well produced. I like the way that the meeples look with the screen printing on them. And I just really love that King Domino draft system of whoever takes the best stuff is later in turn order on the next turn. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about this one, Railroad Tile. So that's going to be my pick of the week for this week. And that is going to do it for Crowdfunding Corner here on October. Today's the 2nd, but this will go up on the 4th. So, all right, Devin, last segment of the show today, we're going to talk about the games we are most excited about from Board Game Geek's giant list of all of the games that are at the Essen convention in Germany. I think it's actually called SPIEL in Essen, Germany, or something like that. Anyways, the game has or excuse me, the list on Board Game Geek has hundreds and hundreds of games on it. Each of us chose 5, just as like a quick precursor. I didn't choose any games that I either already have, like we talked about Cities and Bomb Busters, which I have right here on the table next to me already earlier in the show. So I don't have them on the list, even though I was kind of excited about them. Andromeda's Edge was pretty high on the list. I have it behind me, so I didn't put that on. And Arcs should be delivering to me pretty soon, so I didn't put that on. And I didn't put any games on my list that come out next year. So I only did games that are being showcased at Essen and actually come out this year. I didn't tell you those restrictions beforehand, so
good, because I didn't follow them.
So yours don't have to follow that at all. If, for example, Speakeasy is one of my most anticipated games from Vital Lacerda, but it doesn't come out till next year. So that one I didn't put on my list either. And then just one more little note. I try not to spend too much time like watching videos and reading about future games, because there's just so many that are already out or that I already have that I can't fill my brain with too much stuff for things that I don't even have yet. So some of these games, like, I know I'm excited about, but I really almost know nothing about them. So we're going to talk about these games for like just a very short few seconds is all. Maybe a minute if we really know, but I think this will go pretty quickly. So Devin, we're just going to go back and forth, starting with our number 5, then obviously 4, 3, 2, and 1. And by the end, we'll have 10 games here that we're most excited about. I'm pretty pumped to see yours, because you have purposely kept yours hidden from me, so I have no idea what you have picked here. I'm really excied to see like Barbie's first drafting game.
They're all for 5-year-olds.
That would be pretty great.
All right, well, I will start. I don't know if you've looked through the whole list. There was a lot in there, over 1,000. I
didn't look at everything.
There's a ton. But my first one, I don't even know how to pronounce this, is Paella Park.
Wow.
Very unique looking game. I wrote some notes down here. Hand management and strategic grouping. Sounds like something I would like.
You like hand management with cards. So
yes, I like to combine cards and abilities to try to master basically the mathematics of an ability to take you out. Super weird art. I like the art style.
Yeah.
It's Tim Burton-ish. I don't know how else to explain the art, but it looks cool. It's got little meeples as well. Fun things. There's a little bit of push your luck in this. I saw that as well.
I know. Yeah.
I know you don't love that mechanic, or maybe I'm wrong.
I do in some instances. If it's not too brutal, if the game's short, I generally like it more. If it's like a big complex game and then there's something I just got unlucky about and I lost 10 points, I think that's a bad feeling in a bigger, heavier
Look at this little
game.
top. Bet you never seen that before.
I haven't. And that bald guy in front of it, that's pretty hardcore.
What a cool guy.
He pointing at a snail and a slug.
Yeah, I don't know too much about this.
That?
It looks like this is in a different language, that photo. But I loved the art. Cool aesthetic. And from what I saw, people got their hands on it. I think this was 2023 and has a pretty dang high review score of, at least on this site, an 85 of 100.
Yeah.
And that makes me hopeful. So that's why I picked Paella Park, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, it looks like you're at an amusement park and you're trying to pack in as much fun as you can in 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have never heard of this one.
If the game takes 8 hours, I'm not excited for it. I don't want to do that.
No. The game takes 60 minutes. It must be like 8. You must like assign something to 8 sections on like your player board or something that would represent those 8 hours. Yeah, I don't know anything about this one. Never heard of it. Never heard of Zombie Paella, the name of the publisher. I'm going to click on this designer and just see if he's made anything else I know of. Nope. He's in Barcelona. So I don't know. Maybe it came out there last year and it's just hitting other markets now. So very unique pick, Devin.
Oh, yeah.
That was very cool. All right. My number 5 is also a game that came out in a different market last year. It's called Video Game Champion, and I think it came out in like Brazil or something last year. And so the Dice Tower actually has a review of it from like not 6 months, like a year or maybe 18 months ago. But it's just barely coming to, I think, America and other markets now. So I'm pretty pumped about this one. It's all about being a little kid and trying to rent and play and beat video games with kind of this old school video game art. They're all fake video game names, but they look clearly influenced by like Castlevania and other video games. So there's these big video game cards, and then you do a lot of different things. You're taking these tiles that have like a ABXY, like 4 set of buttons on them that are different colors and different strengths. And then you use those in order to go to, I think you can do different actions like ask your mom for money so that you can go to the video store and rent new games. And then you can, depending on which sets of those tiles you have, you can play the game. Or if you have every tile you need, you can beat the game. And if you beat the game, then you'll score the points for them. And then you can get like strategy guides. And if you get those, then they will help you to beat games faster. So just a really cool theme, in my opinion. It seems pretty light, like not too complex, probably around like a 2 or 2.5 max would be my guess on the heaviness scale. But I like the theme so much. Seems like a fun theme that we don't see a lot, kind of the blockbuster video game era. Excuse me. So that's Video Game Champion. I think it was called O Bom de Video Game in Brazil or wherever it came out first. So that's my number 5.
Do you think they've ever made a video game that's all about playing board games? Besides Tabletop Simulator, that doesn't count.
I bet they have. I feel like there are video games about everything.
All right, so my number 4 or second one is going to be Chance for the Old Ones. Have you heard of this?
Okay, I have.
Okay, so once again, I got caught up on the aesthetic. I was like, oh, shoot. We got the Kraken or Thulu from Bloodborne. I don't know where Thulu comes from. But fun miniatures. I do like that. It comes from what?
I think it was an author from a long time ago. His name was H.P. Lovecraft, and he did a lot of like, they call it Lovecraftian horror now, because he kind of invented this genre of like weird psychological horror with like demon creatures like Cthulhu and others like that.
Crazy. I don't know how you know stuff. Anyways, this is like a fantasy horror game. This also had the effect of Radlands, where you get to pick your deck before you start. I was like, that's kind of cool, unless it's super complex, like you were saying, going through a deck of 400 cards and it takes 2 hours before you begin. I don't know. But super cool miniatures. Yeah. And one other thing that I thought was cool, besides the aesthetic and those facts, was that you can play it solo. And
yep,
I don't know how often you play board games solo, but it seemed cool to me.
I do fairly often, actually. Yeah, it looks like 1 to 4 players. On Board Game Geek, they say it's best at 4. 1 to 1.5 hours. And it's a worker placement game, so you're putting out kind of your big Cthulhu mini somewhere on the board in order to do stuff. And then, building a deck of cards. I feel like I do remember seeing this one on crowdfunding a while ago, so cool that it's hopefully coming out to retail. I haven't heard of this, or maybe it's just delivering to backers, but Cthulhu Project. Yeah, they have some other Cthulhu games too. Anyways, yeah, that's a good one. I like Cthulhu. He's a weird looking dude.
Very.
And yeah, those is it Bloodborne or
he's in the Bloodborne
Demon Souls?
Or wait. No, that's Amygdala.
Yeah.
Something.
Amygdala? I don't know.
I don't know. It's not in Bloodborne. I remember forget about it.
In the Demon Souls remake, when we played that, there were those guys in that like jail area that had like the little bells. Yeah. And if they would like squat and like walk weird around corners and stuff.
That area was so annoying.
And I think they kind of looked like Cthulhu as well. But yeah, that area was annoying. All right, my number 4 is an expansion for a game I really love. It's the White Castle, and this is the Matcha expansion. So I just talked about dice drafting a few minutes ago in the show, and we were talking about, I don't remember, a different game in crowdfunding right now. This is one of my favorite dice drafting games, the White Castle. You take a die from one of the bridges. In the base game, there are 3 bridges, I think white, black, and red. This Matcha expansion adds a board at the bottom of the board and adds a 4th bridge, a green one. And it's all about like making tea. I haven't watched much else about it. In the base game, you have 9 turns in the entire game. So it's like a very like efficiency puzzle. Like I only have 9 turns. I got to do as good as I can with my 9 turns. And I want to combo this turn into like an extra action and this into an extra thing. The expansion here adds, since it adds that 4th bridge, everyone gets 12 turns instead of 9. So I hope that it doesn't make the game like much longer, because I think that's one of the White Castle strengths, is that it's pretty short for a pretty thinky, puzzly Euro game. So yeah, very excited about that one. I watched kind of an unboxing video, and I don't think there's any way that you'll be able to fit that content in the base game box, which is a bit of a bummer, because I don't like having to store and open 2 boxes when I get a game out, but maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, because that would be a great surprise. But I think there are a couple new like meeples you control. Like it kind of looks like a dude with a fan over there. I'm not sure, because you have your gardeners and your samurai and your courtiers in the base game. And I don't know what that guy is. He kind of looks like a sumo dude, but I don't think he is. Yeah. He's probably an expert of tea. But
probably.
Yeah, very excited about that one. I think the entire world's excited about that one. I think that one was number 2 when you filtered or sorted that list by most thumbs. So yeah, White Castle Matcha, that one's going to be big.
I'm excited just for the dice. I like the like lime, like the Shrek green and like the butter colored dice. Really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should play this game with me. It's great. I think you'd like it.
Awesome. Well, my number 3, I wasn't sure I was going to pick this one, but I was like, I'm going to, for a few reasons. It's called Let's Go to Japan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's a very popular game right now.
Oh, is it? Okay, perfect. I'm killing it. So, a couple things about this. I will mention, I do like card games. We figured that out in recent times. I don't really know if this is going to be the type of card game that I would like, but I think the artwork is so cool. Look at that. I think it's
very cool.
Yeah, way cool. Simultaneous turns. I noted that as well. So you can kind of do things when other players are doing them, which is kind of a goated strat. So you're not just sitting there going, "Oh, he wasn't ready for his turn." You know, that type of thing. You're basically planning the perfect trip to Japan. It's a bit of an easier game. Super cool looking. That's all I know about it. And that's why it's number 3 for me.
Yeah, you explained it really well. Like you said, you're kind of making your itinerary for, I think, the week. It might be 6 or 7 days that you're planning for. And you can see the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday there, and you'll be putting cards in those columns. So yeah, very popular game right now. I haven't played this one yet, but it was at a game night I went to a couple of months ago. They had it, and I unfortunately was put on a different game, but that game was Revive, and I really loved that. That was my first time playing Revive, so it wasn't all bad, but I was a little bummed I didn't get to the Let's Go to Japan table. Yeah, good choice. That one is, I'm very excited to try it too. All right, my number 3 is really number 3 for no other reason than I like games from Czech Games Edition, and the Shut Up and Sit Down podcast talked about it recently, and it sounds really cool. So this is SETI, or Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And I don't know much about the game, at least how it plays, other than what they said in the podcast. A little weird to plug another podcast in your own podcast, but they're so wonderful. You know, I don't feel bad about promoting them at all. But in this game, you are searching for extraterrestrial life. And you find it at certain points, and there are all kinds of different like aliens that you may encounter, and they said it's very different depending on which ones are discovered in the game. It's a bit of a like more meaty, thinky Euro game. You can notice just by how many pieces are out like around all of those planets. You got like the little discs and then the ones that look like satellites. There is like a big sun like piece in the middle, and I just want to squish it. I don't even know if it's squishy.
I also want to squish it.
Made of? It's probably just hard plastic.
This is all rotating, isn't it?
Yeah, the board does rotate,
Crazy.
Which is really cool. So I think this one, probably because of that podcast a lot and them hyping it up recently, this one was number one if you filtered by likes. So look at me, I'm a big shill. I only like what the people like with number 1 and number 2.
Unreal, pal.
On my list. But, I like kind of more medium to medium heavy games, and I do feel like that is what Board Game Geek kind of leans towards. So my desires kind of line up with theirs. So anyway, SETI seems pretty cool from the very little I know about it, other than that cool conversation. So that's my number 3.
Okay, my number 2, and I could be completely wrong, because maybe this game's going to be trash, in my opinion, once I played it, if I ever do play it. But it's called Unconscious Mind. The reason I looked at it was because it seemed psychological. I'm a big fan of mastering the mind. I really am. It's a big thing in my life. My hesitation with this game is it ranks above a 4 on a difficulty level, which is outrageous, and I don't know if I have the brain power to do it.
You do.
Maybe. But it has fun potion pieces. I noticed that. I don't know if they're using them. Let's see. Look at those. Amazing. Yeah. That one's got a cork in the top. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if those are just aesthetics for the picture. Maybe they were in a deluxe version. Yeah, this game has also been very big. Oh, they do use it right there on the board.
Oh, nice.
Good call out.
Yeah. The only other thing I saw about it was strategic, what do they call it? Drafting. Strategic drafting to get an advantage is what I wrote down. And I was like, I like strategy. But once I saw the complexity level, I was a little bit turned away. Sometimes I like to learn a bit, but I don't need to learn every bit. You know what I'm saying? Look at these little cute meeples. Amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely a very pretty game. So open drafting, endgame bonuses, contracts. Yeah, and plus 5 more mechanisms. This game is one of the designers is Johnny Pack. And it looks like there's 4 designers on this game. And I've liked some of his games before. I had Coloma for a while, which was one of his that had this cool like Western theme and this dial that magneted to the board and then would rotate, it was a cool game. I did end up selling it, but yeah, that one's been pretty hot as well. People are very pumped about that one. So I think that's a great pick. Art by Andrew Bosley and Vincent Dutray and Yoma. I don't know who Yoma is, but Andrew Bosley and Vincent Dutray are probably like the 2 like most premium like board game artists. So yeah, this game's gonna be huge. And yeah, very, very heavy, complex game, but good pick, Devin. All right, my number 2, I know very little about. I've purposely been trying not to read like anything about it, but it's from. I have a few favorite designers, and one of them is Vladimir Suki, I think is how his name's pronounced. And this is his latest game. Some of my favorite games of his are Pulsar 2849 and Praga Caput Regni, I think are my 2 favorites. And I also have Woodcraft and Evacuation. So I have a bunch of his games.
Look at this.
Been able to play those ones yet.
SETI is also in this photo. That was your 3rd pick.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So this is another like kind of complex Euro game. I don't know much about it. It has these cool camel pieces, and you put little cardboard tokens. You slot them in the camel, I think, to like dictate what the camel is carrying or something. And you're building out canals. And yeah, you see those little slots.
Oh yeah, the little red one right here.
Kind of silly. Yes. Yeah. I don't even think the game like visually looks that amazing. It's pretty like dry Euro, like it's even in the desert. So I mean, the theme isn't what's exciting to me about it. I just really like his game. So that one's kind of on blind faith a little bit there, but that's Rasafa, my number 2, because it has Suki in the on the front of the box.
There weren't many photos for that game, sadly. I wanted to pull up more, but there was only 3.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, what do you
Devin,
think my first
number
pick
1
is going to be? Do you have any idea?
I don't. The only thing you told me was that it didn't match any of my 5. So I mean, let me scroll really quick and just maybe in like 5 seconds I can find it, but probably not. I click on the preview list and filter it by thumbs really fast. Okay, we already went over SETI. I don't think it's going to be Civolution or... I mean, maybe ARCs.
It is not ARCs, no.
Okay. I almost chose Black Forest. Full spoiler, that's not mine. Rock Hard.
Nope.
Maybe.
Is that the guitar one?
Yeah. That one's very popular right now. Phoenix New Horizon I thought looked pretty cool. Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
I didn't see that. How did I miss it?
Oh, that's okay. I have that one pre-ordered, so I didn't put that one on either. But yeah, I don't know. So let me scroll for one more second, and my choice would be Kelp.
It is not Kelp, and I don't know if morbid is the right term for this game, but this is another fantasy / horror game.
Inferno. Okay.
It's called Inferno. First time seeing it ever. But basically, you're helping souls find their circle in hell. It's I don't know. I feel like some people wouldn't play the game for that reason, but I am a huge horror buff. I like this aesthetic so much. It's evil. It's interesting to me. And I've seen such cool pictures of the play pieces. Like, look at these little skulls.
Oh, wow. Those skulls are cool.
Yeah,
I haven't
super
seen
cool.
pictures of this game.
I saw, like, look at this playboard. Just insane. Castlevania-ish. Super, super fantasy. Might be too fantasy for some, but I thought it looked, honestly.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. When I saw the cover, because it was also fairly high on the list, I was like, that's got to be one of those big, like, miniatures games that, you know, is a dungeon crawl and you're fighting monsters or whatever. But this looks very much like a Euro game. Which is a lot more up my alley. Yeah, the theme is very cool. With each death, so it looks like it's about Dante and the Divine Comedy, so Dante's Inferno kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. Like, there's Medusa right there. I don't know if it's going to be like a higher tier or a more expensive version of the game, but I saw these super cool coins. I don't know if anybody's going to have a photo of them. I'm trying to find one, but they looked way cool. And that also got my attention. I actually didn't look into the mechanics of this game. I don't know if you're drafting cards. I don't know if there's cards involved, to be honest, but
looks like multi-use cards. I love that. Grid movement, endgame bonuses, worker placement. I love worker placement, even though I do think it's used a little too often. But yeah, crazy cool board.
Wait for it. Did we find some? No, those are paper or cardboard. Dang it. I don't know.
They were metal ones?
Yeah, they look super, super sweet. And like, there were these cool carrying cases you could get with them that were, one team's was like red and one team's was white, and it looked amazing. But that is going to be my number one poll because I like weird things.
Oh, I think it looks cool. I'm suddenly kind of interested in learning more about this game because it looks like, just from the board and like the pieces, like it's a Euro game, and so that makes me a lot more interested. Cool. Good picks, Devin. Those were fun. My last one is called, I don't know how to pronounce this, Daitoshi, I think.
What a cool name.
I've talked about, in this episode, I've talked about lots of games from Devere. They're one of my favorite publishers right now. The White Castle is one of their games. What other game of theirs did I talk about today? I mean, other games that were on that list were Sand. I have Sand right. Whoa, what direction am I going? Right here, behind me. And Bamboo, and I just got Salt and Sea. Oh, you can see Salton Sea, White Castle, and Bamboo are all right there. Really love their games. This game is even maybe a step more complex than those. And Danny Garcia is kind of becoming one of my favorite designers as well. I got Arborea recently, which is a game he designed and really loved it. So just kind of based on those two things alone, that it's a Devere game in their medium to medium complex line that was designed by Danny Garcia. I'm very pumped about it. And it kind of has this weird circle-shaped board. With between this one and SETI, you'd think I maybe love circle-shaped boards, but kind of has this variable setup where you'll place these tile buildings around it. And I don't think they necessarily like rotate, but and yeah, I don't even really know anything about how the game plays, to be honest, other than it says that you're trying to harness the power of steam. So you must be going to these different locations. I like Devere's kind of to use steam to get points and stuff. Devere makes really unique like wooden pieces. I liked the silkworms in sand, and I can't tell what that big purple and green piece are.
I like this yellow and black meeple. Just the detail of it is very unique.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
I agree. It looks like it's a worker placement game with a modular board. Those are the two mechanisms listed here. The Board Game Geek page doesn't have a lot on it, so it seems like this is also a thing I like about Devere, that they don't generally crowdfund their games. It's just, yeah, we believe in this, we're publishing it, and here it's out. And then it's just kind of like a surprise, instead of this one being like, oh, it was on Kickstarter a year ago, and so everybody kind of knows what it is. So I like that surprise factor to them too, which is maybe a weird thing to be excited about, but yeah, very pumped for Dai Toshi. Use the power of steam to do business and expand your factory in the big city. I think the art's really cool too. Cool board. I don't even fully know what the player board looks like, but yeah, very excited for this one. I've been very close with my trigger finger to pre-ordering it, and it probably will happen here in the next few days, just after I do a little more research and reading. But anyways, that is going to be my number one.
Fun fact,
like I said, a lot
that goes with the
go
name
ahead.
of this game. It just reminded me of I don't even know why I need to say. I really don't. But Ready Player One, there's two characters named Daito and Sho, or Daito and Shoto, funny. And it almost did it. Daitoshi. It could have been Daito Sho
and She,
and it would have been perfect. I don't know why it reminded me
That's
of that.
Funny.
But
oh, it's a deep pull. I've actually never seen that movie, but I know you enjoy it.
What? Oh,
yeah, I haven't seen it.
You've got to watch that. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I'm behind on movies, but yeah. Anyways, Daitoshi is my number one. Like I said at the top, I don't even know very much about these games at this point, and Devin didn't either, but we did some digging through that list, and these were the ones that stood out to us. So anyways, thanks for watching this video and checking out our list here of games that we're pumped about that are releasing soon from Essen SPIEL. All right, Devin, with that, I think we're going to be done for the day. This was one of our shorter episodes at 2 hours and 17 minutes or whatever it is.
Still long.
Yeah, I did add a long segment to the end, or I think it would have been like an hour 50 maybe. But
I enjoyed the end segment. That was fun.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was good. Might not be good for my wallet because I might get some of these, but we'll see. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode number 27 of the Super Game Brothers podcast. Please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/supergamebrothers. We also have the YouTube channel and my Gaming Top Down YouTube channel, all about board games. We also have Instagram and TikTok and Twitter accounts. So please follow us on those. That helps us tremendously. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for the evening. Devin, it's 11:30 p.m. What are you going to... You headed right to bed? Or...
Probably make a little bit of popcorn.
He's watching a movie.
Yeah, I might start one. Last night I tried to start a movie on my phone and got maybe like 15 minutes through, and I was like, nah, fam, I can't do this. But
I don't know how you watch them on your phone.
I know it's uncomfortable. I need a head rig, like a headband, so the phone will sit right here because I'm sick of holding my hands like this in front of me. And I have to switch arms because one falls asleep, and then I want to lay on my side, and then the image turns on my phone from landscape to portrait, so I have to flip the whole phone and then flip it so the top of the phone is down, and then it won't go to portrait mode. I've gone through the whole experience. And then you try to do it with AirPods, and if you lay on your side, it smashes the AirPod into your ear. So you do it with one AirPod, and you're like, why even use AirPods? I'm just going to use the phone speaker. Then your dad's sleeping outside of your room because he snores, so he got kicked out of your mom's room. And so you don't want to keep him up. It's a whole thing, bro.
Sounds like it. You just need to mount a TV to the ceiling in your bedroom.
I have a TV here. I was thinking about it.
That would be crazy. You might never leave your bed.
Dude, it'd be like the only other time I've ever watched a movie on a TV on the ceiling is at the dentist.
And that is nice.
It is. Yeah. Just full-blown relaxation. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a pretty good plan. Cool. Well, it's 11:30. I expect that drill to be going and those holes to be drilled for that mount here at 11 p.m. Love it. All right, well, that's going to do it for the show. We will see you next week for episode 28. Thanks again so much for listening and watching, and we will see you later.